Ted Cruz knows a winning issue when he sees one, and so quite naturally he jumped to the defense of Donald Trump over the strikeback that Trump has received for his comments recently about Mexico. Now, if you're not familiar with those comments, what Trump actually said, here it is.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. It's coming from all over South and Latin America, and it's coming probably from the Middle East.
Like, that wasn't in response to a question. That was a speech he wrote. They're rapists. Like, it's not like he's struggling to come up with something. He planned that statement. And by the way, really fast for Trump, it's not like King's Landing choosing 10 people from the dungeons to send to the Night's Watch. They're not sending people. People are coming.
Yeah, there's no organized effort there on the part of the Mexican government to send workers away.
Exactly.
It seems unlikely. You saw right there that what Donald Trump's problem is that, and it's his enormous arrogance that causes him to, I presume, not really have any serious political advisors around him. That is not, as always, the guy who says dummy all the time. Dummy. He says dummy like he's 11. Stop being such a dummy. Just a bunch of dummies.
Yeah.
He has no strategy. There's no rehearsal. Like Donald, we got to work on your talking points for immigration. I got him. I'm not a dummy. I have him.
It's very Palin-esque, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. It is. It's incredibly reminiscent of Sarah Palin. I mean, what an enormous lightweight that guy is.
And by the way,
also, when he said you and you, who was he pointing at?
Well, here's who he was pointing at. He was pointing at the audience, which was composed of actors that he had hired to stand in the audience for his announcement.
But I mean, he did it at the Trump Tower or the Trump Plaza or wherever the
Trump something.
The Trump something, right, in New York, right? I mean, it just went, that's where he did it.
I don't know if it was in New York, but yeah, it was at one of his buildings.
Yeah, I think it was.
To a group of actors.
But there weren't, I mean, it wasn't like there were a bunch of Mexicans there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah?
Well, who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
we weren't there.
I'm sorry, I mean a bunch of rapists.
Someone who's not worth watching, but we're going to watch a little bit of him, is Ted Cruz. Now, Donald Trump has gotten in a lot of trouble for those comments, obviously. He lost his deal with Univision, I believe. Now, NBC has canned him. He's lost a multi-million-dollar contract. Now, he does have one defender, though, and that is Ted Cruz, who went on Fox News to deliver this message.
When it comes to Donald Trump, I like Donald Trump. I think he's terrific. I think he's brash. I think he speaks the truth. And I think NBC is engaging in political correctness that is silly and that is wrong.
Should he apologize for what he said?
I don't think you should apologize for speaking out against the problem that is illegal immigration. I recognize that the PC world of mainstream media, they don't want to admit it. But the American people are fed up. Now, listen, we are also a nation of immigrants, and we should celebrate legal immigrants. But Donald Trump is exactly right to highlight the need.
Are they mostly drug dealers and rapists that are coming across the border?
Look, they're not mostly that, but Donald Trump, he has a way of speaking that gets attention, and I credit him for focusing on an issue that needs to be focused on.
Look, he didn't need to defend Donald Trump. There's not much value in defending Donald Trump, especially since, I don't know if Ted Cruz knows this, but he's trying to take the presidency away from you, by the way. But he is defending him there. My immediate reaction was, like, PC culture? He called Mexicans rapists. It wasn't like he used a term that's a little bit outdated. It's like, oh, we don't call them rapists anymore. We have a different word. No, he just called immigrants coming here, very often with their family, with children, to give them a better life. He called them rapists.
Yeah, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime. They bring crime, because crime is something you bring with you. I don't know. I have a good sense of when people know they've made a mistake, and I think Trump knew he made a mistake when he said rapist, because there was no discernible, measurable amount of time between when he said rapist and the next thing. You know, it's like, they bring drugs, they bring crime, they're rapists. Some of them are good people.
I assume.
I assume. But he's like, he was like, oh no, can't let that one linger. Got to move on to another point.
Yeah. Now, look, the only thing I can come up with that sort of makes sense on why Ted Cruz would defend Trump in this way is there are some Americans who feel that Trump was not just being honest. I think we can all agree that he's being honest, but that he was right.
Well, there's no value.
That they are. The immigrants are drug dealers. They bring in crime. They bring in all sorts of violent crime, sexual crime. They're drug dealers. I mean, we've heard this a number of different times from, like, the cantaloupe calves comments and all of that. And I guess he feels he needs to pander to probably the darkest core of America, I think. The xenophobia, the fear of outsiders, even though we are a country of outsiders who have each in their own way contributed to what makes America great. There is always that fear that, okay, all of these groups that have come before, fine, but the next group, fuck them. And we see that now with Hispanics. He also, of course, threw in the comment about immigration from the Middle East, and implying there that we need the wall not just for the Mexican rapists, but for ISIS terrorists as well. It's this anti-intellectual, anti-history, anti-world approach that these conservatives have, and I think Ted Cruz feels he needs to get him some of that.
Yeah, I don't think Ted Cruz has to worry about getting some of that. It comes naturally to Ted Cruz. But I don't think there's much value in Ted Cruz ripping Donald Trump. Then, again, you seem like you're picking on another Republican. And I think this worked out better. I think Ted Cruz, who's a pretty skilled guy.
Do you think?
I think Ted Cruz is a skilled politician.
I think he came off as incredibly unpresidential there. Like, just sitting there, the way he was talking to them, I can't conceive of, like, we go back and there was Barack Obama was doing something like that. Like, or even George Bush.
Yeah, I don't see that.
He just seems very much, he seems like a congressman to me. He doesn't even seem like a senator.
Well, look, I don't think Ted Cruz is about to be president. But Ted Cruz also has the advantage of being able to criticize, of being able to get away with saying almost anything he wants on immigration because his name is Ted Cruz. And so,
yeah, you're probably right.
Have that sort of, so I don't think there's much value for Ted Cruz in criticizing Donald Trump. All that's going to happen now is, Trump, you look at polls, and they're essentially meaningless, but, you got nobody above 13%. You got Jeb Bush at like 13, and then Trump's in second place at 11. And when if Ted Cruz is at all a smart guy, Donald Trump's not going to be president. Donald Trump's not going to be in this race much longer. I don't think Donald Trump's ever going to file paperwork. And if Ted Cruz by supporting Donald Trump is there as he builds his name for people to know him and pick those people up, then all of a sudden...
You think maybe Trump will remember?
It's not so much that Trump will remember, those
remember.
voters will remember. Be like, hey, I love Donald Trump. That guy Ted Cruz, and he sounds. I mean, Ted Cruz sounds 70 times smarter than Donald Trump. I don't know that he is. Ted Cruz isn't 70 times smarter than anybody, but if there's anybody he's 70 times smarter than, it's Donald Trump.